Hello there, I'm Callum and welcome to the EU in Review, where I review the Star Wars Expanded Universe as I experience it. And this time, I'm going to be talking about Tales of the Jedi, the Freedon Nadd Uprising. Now this is actually one of the ones that don't have the privilege of having as a physical copy, so I had to read the digital version. This is interesting as it ties in both of the stories from the Tales of the Jedi comics I just reviewed before, with qel-droma and Nomi Sunrider to go into the one place and do all of that. It also introduces plot threads to pick up in a future series, which I'm going to be reading afterwards, as Dark Lords of the Sith, which is pretty much just a continuation of all the same story, which is cool. And I do like the art. The art's been great throughout all the Tales of the Jedi so far, and the continuity I've found is quite good. I note down if I have any issues, but a lot of them are very minor nitpicks and stuff, and very much artistic interpretation of some things possibly. So the basic premise of this is the Freedon Nadd stuff is still going on Onderon, and then all hell is going to break loose because still the cultists for Freedon Nadd were around, and so they're trying to steal the body of Queen Amidala and Freedon Nadd to come back and get power from it, because they're losing power after the Jedi defeated them before. And so it's quite interesting how this will all tie into Ulic and Nomi and all of that. I really enjoy it, it's good. But that'll be pretty much it for the spoiler-free section, and then now I'm going to get into my notes as I read it. It is a 2-issue series which is written by Tom Veitch and illustrated by Tony Atkins and Dennis Rodio. Issue 1 is titled The Freedon Nadd Uprising, because the second one has a different subtitle. It opens with the state of Onderon at the time, and it's interesting how it's progressed since the Tales of Jedi ones before. It's funny how the remaining Freedon Nadd worshippers are called Naddists. Yeah, say that a few times. Naddist, 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 Naddist. Nudist! Oh, nudist! Anyway, Oswellum first joins Master Arca and his apprentices, and this is where it says apprentices and not Padwans, which I thought was interesting to note. Kay had his droid arm, and Os's species isn't said in the comic, so that may be in the source book or it may come up later, but there are a lot of species like that, which I wish they would have just referenced the species or done a little note, author's note or editor's note on there going, here's this species or whatever. A bit like some manga does in the margins or whatever. Anyway, Arca calls some followers dark side magicians, which is quite interesting. And they are transferring Freedon Nadd's remains and Queen Amidala's to the moon of Duxon, which is quite interesting to think they're chucking them over there like, yeah, that'll be out of the way. Instead of actually going, let's actually destroy these, because they're causing problems and they could still do it. But they wouldn't have much of a plot if they did destroy them, would they? They are interrupted by a group of Naddists coming out of a what I call a dig boy after Spider-Man. They're little tunnelers that come out of the ground, mining tunnelers sorts of things, but I just call them dig boys after Spider-Man. And if you haven't played the Spider-Man PS4 game, they have similar sorts of things that Spider-Man jokes and calls dig boys, and that's their name for them, and so that stuck with me. And it's interesting how their leader, at least for this part, looks like a cool medieval knight, and I like that sort of imagery. It looks really cool. They steal the sarcophagus and are out of there as soon as they steal it, and of course that was pretty clever of them, isn't it? Because they don't want a prolonged engagement with the Jedi, because they probably won't win. So they go, let's steal the remains, distract them, and then, yep, we're out of here. And the old dying king, which they went, oh, Queen Amidala is the one who's dark side. What about the king? Maybe he was just caught up in it. Maybe he doesn't really do the dark side stuff. He calls forth the spirit of Freedon Nadd, which is quite interesting to me, because there's his Sith spirit right there. And he gets up. The old man gets up, even though he's supposed to be bedridden and supported by this framework of stuff keeping him alive, he just gets up with the spirit of Freedon Nadd empowering him and captures Arca in dark side energy, which is like, and it escalates quickly from that, conjuring what appears to be an illusion of the armored warrior, which I thought was interesting. And it's really cool to see Ossus, because it jumps back to Ossus and picks up Nomi's story, as Thon has taken her to Ossus, where the main Jedi Academy and stuff is at that time. And Nomi's hair is red again, and back like the first issue, well, the third issue of the Tales of the Jedi series, the first of her issues in that run. And we see Master Vodo Seal Sparse, and I hadn't seen him before, and he's a crab creature, which I thought was a bit funny, but also the creativity of different species and stuff is really cool. Vodo refers to the Adegan crystals that Nomi has as pontites, and apparently that's a rare kind. And this is where I went, Adegan crystal being the catch-all term for lightsaber crystals, that is definitely, at least at that time period, accurate, because they refer to them as Adegan crystals all the way through. It's cool to see a Mirror Lucan appear in this comic. I don't remember, because I'm not reading him by release date, if one had appeared beforehand, but it's really cool to see one in here. And Nomi learning more of the Jedi way over a few months and constructing a lightsaber. So it's not just that, oh, she's suddenly able to go into battle against the Naddis and everything and join them from the little bit that she's done. It's actually that she's training more over a few months where Master Thon's already taught her a bit. And she also constructs her lightsaber over the few months, which is actually pretty cool to see that process happening there. And it just so happens that when her story catches up to the qel-dromas, she's one of the ones picked to go to Onderon. Surprise, surprise! But it's really good how they do it. And they say they're calling for more Jedi support because the Naddis are causing trouble. And they have a bunch of great variety, actually, of the Jedi going and joining them, because they have the Mirror Lucan and a couple of others that I don't remember the name of right now. But that happens. And so, yeah, seeing her style here, here's where I went. Her face reminds me a bit of Aura Singh, at least in one panel, where the face and the sort of the receding hairline a little bit and stuff reminds me of Aura Singh. Not that she is exactly the same, but it's just the style of how she's drawn a bit reminded me of it. It does show an older Coruscant, which looks quite different to the prequels, which I like how it looks quite different. By the time of the prequels, these buildings would have been built over and all of that. And of course, release call for help is discussed in a committee. Same old Republic, right? One person looks like they're just wearing a modern suit in there, which I thought was funny. And it's cool how it's showing the heirs to the Empress Teta system. Now this is where it starts introducing these couple of characters that are picked up later on. They're actually given quite a lot of prominence in this story because it's like we're following them for a decent chunk of the comic. Alima is the name of the sister, and that name keeps reminding me of Alima Ra, which of course this comic came first, but Legacy of the Force and all the stuff with Alima Ra during the Darkness trilogy and stuff, I think it was. Still have to read them, so that's where I'm a little bit hazy. As very much, I feel like the name is a connection there. They go to a museum for some reason, wanting to learn about the dark side. I'm like, kids these days, they're never happy just ruling a country and the whole Empress Teta system. They always play up, don't they? But they steal a book, because why not? Because they're like, yes, this has dark side power. Oh, we can use this. Oh, this will be fun. I'm like, oh, stupid kids. But I guess that's how you're meant to feel a little bit, because they're gonna have problems. And of course, it's the whole history of like the dark side causing problems. It says the Sith have been destroyed a long time ago, which would make sense about it being the 1,000 years between the fall of the Sith Empire and the current events in this comic. But it also could have been a little bit after the fall of the Sith Empire, because we still had Nagaseta go back and want to rebuild his strength and then come back and strike again. It's cool to see a news broadcast and then they think, oh, Onderon, let's go there. Danger and mayhem await. And their royal yacht is all gold and fancy. The couple the two heirs remind me a bit of the dynamic between Gavin, Jory, Darragon and how we're following both of them, which may be intentional, maybe not. Maybe they reuse that type of thing to follow along and see some stuff, so it's cool. And issue 2 is Initiates of the Sith. It opens on the Teton space yacht going into the war zone. They have rocket jumpers as units, which is pretty cool because they have jetpacks and that. And maybe that's where the Mandalorians later went, oh, hang on, they use jetpacks efficiently, we'll take that on in our combat. It explains more about Mirror-Lucans, like, it seems to be an introduction for the Mirror-Lucans because it explains how they are, because the Mirror-Lucan, whose name is Shwana's Kulu, I didn't note it down there, fights, and it explains a bit about how they see in the Force. And the dark side blocking Nomi's battle meditation is actually pretty cool to note that detail and how they can do that. And it's great to see all the Jedi fighting together. Cool Tok, who's apparently a Nazar prince, is also a Jedi and he's a different species, so that's cool. I am not familiar with that species, but I love that it gives a species name in this part, because I wanted the species names for all the different species everywhere. So if I want to go back to it and go, what was that species again? I can go, I can look in the source material for that. The dark side was eating away Ulick's life force, he says, which is interesting. And the force of the other Jedi still fighting on Onderon, because they've been fighting there for the few months or whatever that Nomi trained for. When they're together with more Jedi, feel stronger, which connects in with how the Force works in the Jedi Academy novel trilogy and a bunch of other places where the Jedi are stronger together and stronger in the light side, which is great. I did write down, it reminds me of the Jedi Academy trilogy with Exar Kun being defeated by Luke's students all coming together to expel him. It's really cool how Nomi is under specific attack in the Force, as the enemies recognize her ability and her power in the Force and go, get her. And then back to the Teton heirs. They take the book to King Omen, which is the king of the Naddus, I'll call them now. They're Onderonians, but they're the Naddus. And Satal, which is the male heir to the Empress Teta system, puts on an amulet that allows him to read the text. Somehow. Not exactly sure how that works. Maybe a bit of explanation somewhere, maybe a big good button. They're explaining a lot of things like the Force enables them to do it and allows the gift of interpreting the Sith text, which is interesting. And then Omen had actually captured Master Arca, which I thought was really cool, and shows him the heirs to the Empress Teta system, Arca being tortured. So Satal and Alima are the two heirs to the Empress Teta system, if you missed that. And shares the plan with them, for whatever reason, he's very talkative, anyway, to turn Master Arca into a darker Jedi, which is like, oh, that could be interesting if it actually does happen. Definitely opportunity for Infinity Stories as well. And then during the battle, Kay gets his droid arm cleaved again, so it's like, well, the droid arm you got just before, what use was that? Because you're just losing your arm again. It's like he doesn't care about his left arm. It seems to be his weakness. Ulick takes out King Omen from the mechanics keeping his body together, which I thought was pretty cool, because whatever was he was on life support, he still needed the technology and everything to keep him alive. Gets rid of that, kills King Omen, and there goes the main threat there. As the Tetons go for their book, Nadd appears to the Tetons and gives the book to them along with Sith swords. So, more to come. Saying that it has always been their right, which is quite interesting because I would love to have read more of Freedon Nadd, which would have been the time of Nagaseta, we're attacking all Nagaseta's descendants. Going and attacking and this whole war, which I think must be the war that's referenced back in the Tales of the Jedi series since Fall of the Sith Empire and these events. And it ends with Nadd returning to Omen and speaking to the Jedi. Master Arca appears because he's been freed by the attack and all that. But basically, Freedon Nadd going, "This is not the end, you haven't won." And it doesn't say exactly like that, but that's basically the gist of it. And then it can go into even more good story. I'm really loving these, I'm really loving them, and they're brilliant. Super great. I love as well experiencing these for the first time, being able to share my thoughts like this, that's great. And being able to talk about it and all that. Because you guys are my outlet for talking in depth about this sort of stuff compared to my real life. My parents don't care as much about it, and other friends I have, it's just different. So I love doing these videos, I love doing my reviews, I love talking about it. Let me know what you think in the comments below about the Freedon Nadd Uprising, and if you can get me a cheap copy, put that there too, because it's one of the rarer ones. I want to try and collect all of the comics, but I just got to take the bargains where I see them a bit. But yeah, thank you. Don't forget you can subscribe for more Star Wars Expanded Universe content, and I'll see you in the next video. Anyway.